are having Sallia Goldstein here today, and we're excited to get started with that. But first, here's a few announcements. First, we'd like to thank our sponsors and partners. We're here in Frame, so there's a very particular one that we'd like to thank because we're here today. And we have a whole lot of awesome people that come together and contribute to what makes XR Women great. And before we begin, we are recording, and please be aware of your avatar and your surroundings. And remember that you can, sit down and get yourself seated. That will help you out when you move around and get a drink and that sort of thing. We'd also like to let you know that we have updated our code of conduct. These guidelines are in place to keep our space respectful, and they also protect you. So basically, if you wouldn't post it on LinkedIn, then don't post it in the Slack channel. Just keep in mind that we are trying to keep this a super friendly and open space for everybody. We'd like to welcome our new members. Check out the fact that we have 13 people since our last event in 6 different countries. How incredible is that? It's just nonstop, the growth in this group, and it's so impressive. And with that in mind, we'd also like to tell you about our celebration coming up. Over the past 4 years, XR Women has emerged as a transformative force in showcasing women's achievements in the XR industry, growing into a global community of 1,100 members spanning 60 countries. So, of course, we're going to have a party, and we're going to mark this monumental milestone in 2025 with our Thrive in 2025. There is an early bird registration open now for $150. The prices do go up soon, and it'll be $200 in December 15th. So act now. I'll tell you a little bit more about the event over here. It's going to be held down in Sarasota, Florida. This is going to be a co-located event with the IVRA, the International Virtual Reality Healthcare Association, which there'll also be a hackathon going on at the same time. So that's kind of fun. You can bounce back and forth and meet a lot of other people, even outside of our group, and get them involved in what we're doing as well. So that's February 7th to the 9th, Sarasota, Florida. Karen also wanted me to inform everybody that there is a sponsorship available. I think there's going to be a form that's going to be posted soon about that so that you can apply for a sponsorship. And we have been recording these sessions, as we mentioned earlier, and this is where they go. They go up on our YouTube channel. So that way, if you miss an event, you can come back here and check it out. Or if you just wanted to watch something again, go to YouTube and be sure to go like as many videos as you possibly can. This is the kind of stuff that gets out there into the world, and other people see it and they see the cool stuff we're doing. It helps us promote each other, promote all these women doing incredible things. So go out there and check that out. Our XR Women Museum and Gallery, which is right here in Frame in this space exactly. We're featuring Kay Guillory right now, so be sure to check that out as well. Research Central, which is in Frame, and I do believe there might be a portal from here, but I'm not sure about that. But we can help you out getting there if you don't know where to go. Sarah Barker leads us up as the research librarian, and she also offers consulting every Thursday from 12 o'clock Pacific or 3 p.m. on Eastern Time. Be sure to check that out. It's really, really helpful. We've got a lot of positive feedback on Research Corner, and everybody's contributions matter in these cases. So please do. And it's also a really cool environment. Pin your power. We have been selling these wonderful XR Women pins as a way to promote XR Women and also just help fund this organization. Please do buy a pin and then go get a picture and get yourself out there. You can see some amazing XR women here that you probably already know, Julie and Karen and lots of cool people running around here. And up there in the upper left-hand corner is one of my favorite XR women. Her name is Meatball. She She is one of my favorite antelope friends, rocking out there with the XR Women friend, proving that we are always ahead of the herd. So support the future of XR women and snag your own today. Tonight, December 4th, we're having this is our second installment, I believe, of the XR Women chapter at Ringling College, where they do student showcases. There are actually two posters up, probably behind where you all are sitting. It's in front of me from my perspective. And you can get more details on that. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss that. The student showcases are really important to getting these new voices into our community and helping them find their way and look for opportunities and connect them with other great people. Coming up on December 11th, Natasha Parkin, virtual ball with the VR waltz instructions. We have actually put together, here's a little picture of that. It's really a magnificent environment, really beautiful. They do a lot in VR chat, especially with this type of environment with trackers. So when you watch her walk around, she's actually using her feet too. And it looks really incredible when you see people rolling their full body trackers. You don't need that, of course. You can do this with just your thumbstick. You can do full room scale. A lot of opportunities for you to try out different mobile ways to move around the space in VR. But what we've done is put together a quick little list of things where you could get started. So if you want to dance, you'll probably want to do room scale VR, and that can feel a little bit different than stick because if you're not used to walking around with a headset on, that will feel a little weird. It might be good for you to make sure that you have your floor cleared, make sure that you've actually set up your guardian, do all these things that you need to do before trying to learn how to waltz in VR. So first get yourself acclimated to that idea. And if you're not able to do that, that's totally fine. You can dance with a thumbstick, but again, you might want to practice that a little bit. You could also just observe and just hang out and have a good time. So whatever your level of environment that you choose is, it might be good to go in first with VR chat and get yourself set up, because VR chat just has a little bit more of a higher hurdle on onboarding. If you're not registered already, you'll probably want to go make sure you pick a name that's not your actual personal name, just for safety reasons, that sort of thing. If you have questions, if you're super unfamiliar or super nervous about it, feel free to reach out to us and we'll try to help you out as much as possible. Okay, and here we are. I'd like to welcome to the stage Sallia Goldstein, Data and Dating.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm going to make a brief introduction to Celia as she gets her slides up here on the stage and as I get myself situated to face you all. Hello, hello, XR women. So great to see you. Um, we are delighted today to welcome Celia Goldstein, who's a 3D technical artist came out of the gaming industry, and her area of specialization is bringing brands products into augmented reality. She won Snap's Lens of the Year award with Vendedores Presente, and she went on to win the regional best prize in the 2022 Snap Summer Hackathon with the project Morphomatic, which sounds super cool. In 2023, Celia led a team to develop an augmented reality AR virtual gallery titled Paintings in Motion on Lens Studio 5.0 beta, and that won second place. Oops. Let's see. We need to mute someone there. Okay. Yes. Celia's won second place at Snap's Lens Fest Hackathon in 2023. And now she's working on building specialized tools and Lens Studio to create high quality cinematic experiences. And I am super excited to hear Celia's presentation on data and dating today. Please join me in welcoming Celia. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen.
Woo.
I really appreciate that. I'm very flattered. All right. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, thumbs up if you can hear me. My audio's all okay.
Please turn on your megaphone.
Oh,
That'll
whoops, sorry. I did not realize I did not have my megaphone. Okay, can everyone hear me? Amazing. I see thumbs up. That's wonderful. Great. Okay, so thank you so much for that introduction, Karen. Yes, hi, I'm Sallia. I'm a project wrangler at Paper Triangles. We are a preferred Snap partner for North America. And I am not going to talk about any of that with you today. I'll be talking about a fun side project that I started last year. Everyone can see my screen, hopefully. I can see my screen. All right. So I will get started. So quickly before I actually get started, quick disclaimer, the opinions and views I'm going to express in this presentation are solely of me, the author, and do not represent that of Paper Triangles, my employer, or any of its clients or partners. Just want to get that out of the way. Okay, so here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about first the problem, the whole reason why I did this experiment. We're going to talk about the answer to that, which is the flirt form. And then we're going to talk about my findings and the data from that form and some conclusions. All right, so let's talk about the problem. So, human interactions are so chaotic. Imagine you're at a party or a bar or even a casual hangout or a hike or a get together with friends and you see somebody who catches your attention. I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you. You see someone that catches your attention and maybe you've noticed this person before or maybe this is your first meeting. Now, it might seem scary at first, but you work up the courage to start a casual conversation with them. Now, here's a question. How often do you feel like, how often do people on this call or in this meeting presentation, how many of you feel like you're constantly having two conversations simultaneously? You're having this physical conversation. You're having a conversation where it be through text or email or even face to face in person. But then there's a second conversation where you're having a conversation that's nonverbal, whether it's reading between the lines of, or maybe like what punctuation or emojis this person's using, or maybe it be in person, like their tone, their expression, eye contact, or body language. Now, a few people are really great at being able to marry the two and understand both conversations happening at the same time. Now, I would imagine I'm not an expert on this. I take things pretty literally, and I think, yeah, it's hard to read body language. It's hard to read between the lines for me, and especially when it comes to flirting. Flirting's really risky, and flirting's really scary. So, and also tech has made dating a lot harder too. Funny enough, we think technology is supposed to improve our lives. So far it seems that tech has really kind of made it a lot more difficult. So I sought out to find a solution to this. What if we leverage technology to help bridge the mystification of social interactions? What if there's a straightforward way we can convey my interest in somebody or your interest in somebody, but in a consensual way? All right, so we're going to talk about the form. And I promise you, I will show you guys the form coming up. So I applied a methodology that I use in my AR profession, where I have to do a lot of calculations. I have to do a lot of calculations in Excel spreadsheets. Um, and I'm also leveraging technology. So with that being said, this is the QR code. If you are seeing my screen, and actually, let me see if I can get out of the way so you can scan this code. So I'm going to just go up here. There we go. So there we go. Sorry, it's hard to not clip my camera into the screen. There we go. Okay. So,
and also just sorry, Sallia, but to remind everyone, you can click on the screen and zoom in on it. If
that's great. Thank you, Karen. Yeah. All right, so I invite you all to please pull out your phones and scan the code now. This works just like those menus from the days of quarantine. You can put your camera at a QR code and a URL should appear. Now, make sure you have a solid internet connection as well. Now, if you aren't pulling out your phone to scan the code, that's fine. If you don't have the form in front of you, or if you're unable to see the form, that's okay. I'll actually be posting parts of the form on the next few slides. Now, side note, this form works really great in public spaces because they're usually pretty loud, and it's a great way to communicate almost non-verbally. So yeah. All right. So if anyone, I'm going to give everybody a few more seconds to scan the code on the slide. All right. And that brings me to the next slide. Okay. So I'm going to share some screenshots of what the actual form looks like. So what's really, really important to me is consent. And I actually bring that up in the first question. This ensures that we're both on the same page and the person I'm talking to is open to being flirted with. In my experience, some people have actually said no, but they were still like, they thought the whole thing was really fascinating, so they filled out the form anyway. And usually when someone says no, it's because they're part of a larger group, or they already have a partner with them, or a partner at home, or they just weren't interested. So no one ever gave me like a, ooh, gross, nobody ever gave me an adverse reaction. And so with flirting, it's always essential to give someone a way out. And that's the point of that first question. It's also really important that the user also has an option to not put down their name. So I usually try to make that as clear as I can when I verbally communicate with them. So in the second image, moving on, you can see I have a couple questions about a couple questions about who I'm flirting with, how they prefer the relationships, and a few questions about who they are. And this is just a non-verbal way I can kind of like ask that awkward question. So, for example, I'm a woman who dates other women. It's really awkward to have that conversation. Like, hey, are you like, where on the Kinsey scale are you? So and for those who don't know, Kinsey scale meaning, are you gay? Are you straight? If I flirt with you, is that going to be okay? Great. So you might also naturally be wondering, how do I even bring up this form in a typical conversation? It's kind of weird if you're at a bar and you're talking to somebody and suddenly it's, hey, let me, why don't you scan this for me? Now, honestly, it is kind of weird and kind of strange to have, have to bring up this code. The way I do it is I don't start with that. So say I'm at a bar and I'll look for, say, an article of clothing, or maybe like some interesting hair. Maybe they have interesting hair, and I'll start a conversation from there. And if my signal is if they compliment a physical feature about myself, whether it be my body, hair, or something, that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable to then present them this QR code. It's actually the lock screen on my phone, so I can say, hey, thank you so much for the compliment. Would you mind scanning this code for me? And a lot of times, people are really approach with curiosity. And they approach with curiosity, and no one's ever has an adverse reaction, and we're all very used to scanning QR codes with our phones. So and then I'll move on. So the next part of the form is, what's your drink of choice? May I buy you a drink? And the last two questions, what's your favorite thing so far about me? And what is your favorite physical feature of mine? And I'm showcasing this part of the form because this is actually where I got the most and most interesting data. The most data and the most interesting data. Okay. So getting into the data, the answers populate into a Google spreadsheet, and I'm showing you a section of this here, and I'm omitting names from this section, and it shows people's answers and their drink orders. So let's get into the next section. All right. So the findings went way beyond the scope of finding a relationship. This started off as a fun joke, and then it actually became a tool that I started using in conversations. And what was really interesting was the drink orders. And people's favorite physical features of mine. So we'll start with the drink orders. Now, for some context, I've been using this form since this time last year. I take it, it's a lock screen on my phone, so I essentially have it at my disposal, and uh, I got so I filled a lot of drink orders. So these orders, I categorize these as sweet or non-sweet. Now this is really tricky because this is actually string data, so meaning this is people are actually typing text into the as an answer. So typing text as a part of the answer. So it was really difficult for me to parse out that information. So there's a lot of, especially this is in bar settings, so people make spelling errors. So I leverage Google Apps scripts to try to categorize different drink orders as best I could. And the categorizations I made were either sweet or not sweet drinks. And they're separated by tone. Tone meaning how many different ingredients are in a drink. So we have single tone. So an example, what is a single tone drink? Just curious, anyone want to type in the chat what would be an example of a single tone drink? Yeah, orange juice. Great, perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So so that could be scotch on the rocks. So meaning scotch with ice. Some people call that, consider ice to be a second ingredient. I don't. That could be a beer, wine. Those are examples of single tone drinks. So in this case, scotch. So dual tone, these are drinks with two ingredients. So for example, rum and Coke. If anyone wants to write other example, go ahead in the chat. But yeah, so like rum and Coke, this could be vodka soda. Now, some people say rum and Coke is actually a tritone because it has a tritone because it's rum, Coke, and a lime. So an example is a martini, which I believe is vermouth, gin, vermouth, and olives. For me, it's a lot of olives. So these are examples. So we consider tritones to be more complex drinks, and actually anything beyond tritones, that's where you get into those really special, margaritas and specialty drinks. So we'll start getting into people's answers. Women's drink orders. So women overwhelmingly chose non-sweet and dual tone drinks. So this is really interesting because the most common answer was the Moscow Mule. That was by far the most common response. And then I believe this was quickly followed by gin and tonic. So I think the stereotype is with women, we consider women or more femme-presenting people to be into things like cosmopolitans or sweet drinks, like those sugary, bright, sweet drinks. Not that those aren't awesome, but this was really interesting because this really contradicted the stereotype that women are and feminine people are straddled with. So this data actually, directly contradicts that. Now, I am a woman that flirts with women who are usually interested in other women. So keep in mind that my findings are mostly correlated towards women that are on the Kinsey scale. So what's really interesting though is taking this data around summer of this past year, I tried to predict at bars if they're with women what drink order they would want. So I went to a bar and met somebody. So started talking to a girl and said, "Hey, so do you want a Moscow Mule?" And she says, "Of course, that's my favorite drink." So this is what's really interesting. Yes, actually, Sarah, and also to answer your question in the chat, she said, "What about masculine women who are bi?" This also, I think this also worked for masculine women. Now, we'll get into men's drink orders, and this will be kind of interesting because men, we'll get into that. So masculine women who are bi, so could, take the data, with a grain of salt, because, this is my experience. So we'll get into men's drink orders. So men overwhelmingly also chose non-sweet but single tone drinks. So the less complicated, the more the better. Now, whiskey was the most common response, and beer was the second most. Now, what was really interesting about men, now, you also, quick pause. You might be wondering, Celia, you're a lesbian. Why are you sending this flirt form to men? What would usually happen is, in an actual setting, usually I would show this to a girl. She was with a group of people, and the group of people think, oh, whoa, a form, like, this is really cool. Like, they start scanning it too. And, I'm not going to say no to, more data. The other thing is, I showed this form, I presented this form on Twitter, on my personal Facebook, on and a lot of different platforms. I took this form with me to Reality Hack at MIT, and a lot of people had the opportunity to just freely scan the form as they please. And that led to so that led to a lot of men partaking into the in the form. Now, granted, I have way more data from people who identify as women than as men. Still have data now. What was really interesting about more masculine people is the brand really matters. So, for example, a Bud Light is going to be very different from 808, or these are two different beer brands, like a Pabst or Pabst versus Miller. So I didn't really put a string, or it was very, very hard to separate the brand from the drink category in Google Apps script. If someone here is an expert on parsing that data in Google Sheets, let me know. But that was really, but that was a very interesting finding. Is that the brand name really matters. The other thing is, I noticed it's also trended a bit with more mask presenting women as well. So more mask presenting women that would go for single tone. It's about the brand. Okay, so now moving on to favorite physical features about me. So I have a section at the end, as you saw. What's your favorite thing about me, and what's your favorite physical feature about me? So with men, I made a word cloud. So I took the string data and I put it into an extension of Google Sheets that creates word clouds. And you can see what shows up. The words that are larger are the words that show up a lot larger are the ones that were more common in responses. So obviously, smile and hair and eyes are going to be the largest, are going to be the most common responses, and some other, and then some other, features as well. Now, I don't have as much data on men as I do with women. So I'll go to the women's responses. And you can see the women are a lot more forward with their responses. And I have a lot more data from women. And I'll give you guys a minute to see what women were into. And I'll talk about my conclusions. Okay, so people originally assumed that I wanted to find a girlfriend, and this is why I made the form. But it turns out what was actually the fruits of that experiment was the data, which was way more interesting to me. So men, let's not kid ourselves. Men definitely notice sexual features about women, but they know better. Generally, men know better and know that's not the way to impress women. And also, women are just as prone to objectifying thoughts. Now, what's really, women are just as prone to noticing these things about other women. But the difference is, those who are not no threat of sexual assault have less boundaries of not coming off as a creep. So what that means is I present less of a danger to other people. So people feel a little bit more free to be more vulnerable or more expressive around me. So what was also very interesting is since I last gave this talk, I actually gave the Flirt Form to I let someone else copy the Flirt Form, and he was a shorter guy. He's 5'2", and he took the form and he, went out and collected some data. And what was very interesting is people were just as not just as maybe not as people were a lot more objectifying with him than with other men who have used the form. So there are other men who are taller who use the form, a lot less success and less objectification. Whereas, shorter men, they were a lot more objectified. So I found that data very interesting. Okay. So from this, it was really nice overall. It was really great to just get some objectivity and some clarity in my romantic life. And I also encourage other people to make their own flirt forms. And I also encourage you guys to go out, be brave, and collect your own data. So with that, that concludes my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Awesome. Thanks.
Oh wow, that was so interesting. Gosh, I'm wondering, Sallia, about the context and what that influence that plays on the objectifying type comments, because I can imagine that and it seems like you're mostly talking about a bar, but also maybe the type of bar or who it caters to. That might have an influence on the ways that people respond and how objectifying they are in their responses.
Yeah, that is yes, I really appreciate that question. So yes, it's tricky when I take this. It's tricky to parse the data when I take the form to a variety of different places. So for example, a house party at someone's place versus a ski resort, right? A bar at a ski resort. So it is it is really, I do get very, very different responses. I notice the more, I guess, official the setting is a way I would describe it. So for example, if I go to a house party, people are going to be a lot more open, a little bit more, a little bit more open about their opinions. Whereas at a ski resort or, I guess maybe a country club, I don't go to country clubs, but say, I'm pulling this out of a country club bar. That's I'm going to get very different responses. Someone did suggest having a different QR code or a different form for each setting I go to, but it's kind of unpredictable when I pull this thing out. So
yeah. No, that's interesting. And I guess in a place like a house party, you feel like they know somebody and so that makes it safer.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry I was late, by the way. This is so interesting. So I missed a lot of what you said. My apologies. So forgive me if you've already addressed this. I'm curious. So it sounds like from what I hear that you've done this in a party setting, and I'm wondering, because I am a very, very masculine woman. And when I first came in and I heard what you said, I was really like, I wouldn't do that. So I'm just really curious, do you find that more masculine humans are less open to doing this with you? I'm a psychologist and also working with males. And so this is also in personal growth for me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad you asked this. And this is one of those times I really wish I had a sociology background. Unfortunately I didn't go to, I went to school for engineering, not sociology. So I really wish I could talk more about that, have a more informed take about this, other than this is just going to be anecdotal for me. So mask women. So what I found is people that grew up with a more female, traditionally female upbringing, were a little bit more willing, to take this flirt form. Whereas I found that people who grew up with a more masculine upbringing, they were a little bit more suspicious and like, why is this woman making like a move on me? Now that being said, that is like, these are very, very few interactions with men in person out in the wild. The vast majority of the men who participated in the flirt form, it was because I would have the QR code posted on, what formerly my Twitter, now on Blue Sky, or I would have it like I would have like the QR code as a patch on my backpack, and people were just curious.
I so appreciate that you accommodated that. This is
Of
so
course,
interesting.
yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions or questions in the chat? Or anything?
I had a
Yeah.
thought. This is Caitlin. I love this talk, and I was just curious. Of course, I'm so curious. I have a form, by the way, that I'll put in the XR Women. I have a similar form that's different that a friend gave to me, and granted, she gave it to me on paper as kind of a joke. And I was wondering, because it's kind of, I was thinking about the phrase rules of engagement. Like when you're approaching someone to engage with this, do you go into a very vulnerable state where you say, hey, I'm treating this authentically, or do you present it kind of light and lively, like this is my data research? And I'm also wondering if anyone asks you, well, could you fill out a form for me first before I kind of show you my preferences? Like, do you have something where they get to respond and you can give them your thoughts about them? That's what I'm curious about too.
Yeah. So, okay. So the first part of the question was, how are you presenting this? Is it like a lot more academic, or is this more light and lively? And we could kind of, if I understand that correctly.
Well, or vulnerable. I was saying, because
Yeah.
if someone believes that you're really, not that you're looking for a marriage, but that you're really kind of putting yourself out there, then they might be more willing to put their vulnerable thoughts out. Or is it more of a game?
Yeah. So, okay. So it's sort of like, how do I entice someone to almost like share these like really vulnerable things about themselves? It's so interesting when you give somebody, so this is now like sort of a personal, so this is sort of like a personal thing that I do when I present this. So this is, there's a big difference when you're in a clinical setting versus your therapist. When you're talking to your doctor, so like when you're talking to your doctor in a doctor's office versus a therapist's office, they're going to look very different, right? And I try to present more like the therapist's office, so but like a fun therapist. So to kind of invite that vulnerability, the conversations I have leading up to this is I'm really focused on maybe like asking, like, I'm really focused on trying to encourage the other person to maybe talk about themselves. And I think people in general, and also alcohol helps a lot, but in general, if I invite that type of energy, that's what I'm going to receive. So I start with light and lively. Hey, like this is a fun thing. It's really stupid. You don't have to fill it out. I always caveat with you do not have to do this. But generally people are just really curious because it's such a weird, strange, different thing. We're already having this great flowing conversation, like a conversation is flowing very smoothly, and then I kind of stop it with, oh, hey, check this, and now I'm on my webcam, you can see, hey, check this out. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh, this is okay, it's really interesting. So and people do say no. People do say, hey, I'm not really interested, but maybe later. And a lot of people just don't fill out the form too. So yeah, and then somebody argued, okay, men might be more risk averse or more, and that is true. And I touched upon on that earlier, that men were a little bit more like, what are you doing? Are you trying to sell me something? So yeah, that is true. And also really quickly, I have filled out the flirt form for someone else once. That happened once, and it was after a first date that came as a result from the flirt form.
Okay.
So I didn't say this earlier, but I did actually end up in a relationship from from this form, and she had asked me, hey, can you fill out a version of yourself, for yourself for me? Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Yes, that was great. And great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. It is really interesting. Yeah. Men do, men really appreciate logos and branding. Yes, that is very true. And we see that. So I work for an AR studio that works in marketing, and I'm mostly focused a little bit more about my work side. I'm very focused on the sports, beer, and gambling, those industries, which are very male dominated, and the branding really does matter. Yeah, I know. Yeah, this space is really cool, Ashley. Yeah, with the being able to show my presentation and with my video. Awesome. So are any of you guys, like, maybe you guys might be interested? This is a group of tech women in tech, so maybe you guys might be interested in making your own Google Flirt form.
I like that idea, and I'm also trying to think how this might feed into or work into something in virtual spaces. I mean, have you thought about that? Like virtual flirting or flirting in VR? Yeah.
Virtual flirting in VR. Yeah, I wish I was so. To respond to that, I have a lot of difficulty wearing like headsets for long periods of time. That's actually why it's a big proponent of why I'm in AR, and working with phone cameras and glasses versus a full headset. So, but I'm sure like it's already like it must feel a lot more natural to be able to pull up like a QR code in a VR or an XR space than than in real life.
Yeah, and I think that it would, using something like this would allow you to learn a lot more about the other person. Obviously, there are plenty of things you can glean from their avatar presentation, from their voice, from what they say, from how they're moving in the space. But it is a little, there are some things that you miss from the physical encounters. And so for dating purposes, it's more challenging, I think, to be in virtual spaces than it would be in real life. Yes, I don't know. I'm just thinking this through.
So for some background, so virtual versus physical spaces. Pulling out a phone in a physical space, it's not too strange or weird. And I would imagine I'm not as as well versed in VR as I am with AR. So, but I would imagine in VR, is that normal? Is that going to be appropriate? Going back to the physical space, though, the original idea was to put this on a piece of paper so it would actually feel more like a joke. So a big barrier is the QR code, right? You're showing this code, you don't know where it leads to. It's like presenting someone with like a box and like there's something inside the box, but is it? And and it's like, it's very scary. It's very strange and scary for somebody. And I wonder, well, but what's showing with a stack of papers and here, like, I would like to flirt with you, and handing them this form and a pencil. It's a lot sillier, and that's sort of the types of projects that I'm more geared towards. But someone did suggest, but it's a lot easier to quantify the data if it populates into a spreadsheet. And also, having it as a QR code or as a Google form that was actually suggested to me by somebody, by a friend who was also interested in making her own form. So awesome. All right. Well, there's any more questions or any questions about my work in AR or anything like that?
Oh yeah, sure. I would love to hear about your work in AR, but before you turn to that, can you tell us where you want to take this Flirt Form next? Like what's next for that? You said you're in a relationship, but you're still obviously still very interested in it, and yeah.
So, a little update about that. I'm actually no longer in a relationship. So yeah, long-lasting relationship not guaranteed. Yeah, okay. Oh, thank you for asking, Ashley. Okay, so I'll talk about the Flirt Form, where I want to take it, and I'll close off with where you can find me. So, with the Flirt Form, as I gather more data, I'm just really interested in gathering drink orders and drink habits of people in the SoCal area, and collecting whatever data I have on that. And I'm really interested in refining the form. So when I first made it, I was just kind of doing it out of my office by myself. But I also made an exit survey. So an exit survey for people who I have had previous relationships with. So the exit survey is very much like the Flirt Form. There's a little drop down menu of like, what did we do together? And it has some performance reviews in that. And it is so the exit survey is a little bit more difficult for me to read because those are obviously relationships that had ended. And what I found is that people are very willing to give honest feedback with that. So that exit survey was actually done with a UXR, so a UX researcher from Niantic. We had worked on a project together, and he was really interested in my work with the Flirt Form, and he helped me a lot with formatting the questions for the exit survey. And I would like to get that same sort of feedback with the Flirt Form from someone who does UXR. Yeah, so that would be the next thing, is refining this form, and then also data analysis. So I would love to get better versed at Google Sheets and and parsing data. And not to go on too long, but also I really need to take a statistics class. I had an intro to statistics in college, and it's just one of those math studies that's really hard to sort of teach yourself online. And it's just statistics is one of those areas of math where I need a lot of hand holding. So that would be those are some future things I would like to do with the Flirt Form. And going into the chat, let's see. Where are you finding people typically value the most in a partner with your Flirt Form? Wait, what are you finding people typically value the most in a partner with your Flirt Form? Oh, okay. So Sarah, if I understand the question correctly, the people that take the Flirt Form, what do they value most in a partner? And this sounds like it's very different from what do they value most about me versus what are they looking for in a partner?
Got it. I think that's where, I came in late. I'm so sorry. So your
That's okay.
Flirt Form wasn't about finding a partner. It was about, what do you think's attractive about me? Am I getting that right? Just because I came in late, I don't actually know what your Flirt Form is doing because I came in late. So
no worries.
Okay, so So would you mind just like a quick synopsis? What are you measuring with your Flirt Form? Because I came in late. Is that okay if you would just like a quick?
Yeah, no worries. So the two things the two the two findings from the Flirt Form that I got the most data on was drink orders and what do they like about me personally.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So the Flirt Form was, what do they like about me, and favorite physical feature and favorite feature. And favorite physical feature was obviously different between men and women. I didn't really go into their favorite regular feature because that just was all over the place. It was really hard to find any correlation with that. The statistics class might help with that. Yeah. Oh, great. And thank you for the link, Sarah. I'll check out Prolific. Amazing. Yeah. So I think in general, though, I think when I talk to people about the form, I think a lot of people say, hey, like, this is a really weird way of doing this. Isn't very neurotypical. This is a very neurodivergent way of flirting. So I think one thing is a lot of people actually who are a little bit more on the neurodivergent spectrum really actually appreciated having a non-invasive and non-committing way to like have that start that conversation, because it is really awkward, especially with friends. Like, how do you have that conversation of, hey, I'm a little bit more interested than just friendship here? So the Flirt Form was a really great way around that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And listen, if you're working in XR, like that's not the most neurotypical thing ever. Working in a cutting edge tech industry, it's not the most normal trajectory to have. Yeah. Okay, so we're approaching top of the hour soon, and my time is running out. So if there's no more questions, all right. Okay, so I'll talk about where can you find me. All right, so LinkedIn is always the best place to find me. I am a little quiet on LinkedIn, so I'm trying to get better at posting more of my actual professional projects. So I'm Sallia Goldstein on LinkedIn. In fact, I should probably just link it in the chat. So let me grab my profile URL here. And this is mostly where I talk about my work and my work projects. Oh, there we go in the chat. And that's my LinkedIn, my Blue Sky, and everything. My Twitter, my Blue Sky are both Sallia Snap. That's where you can find me. And I'm actually, if you type in Sallia Snap on most socials, it's really easy to find me there. I'm also, I keep my email open. It's salliagoldstein@gmail.com. And I check my email pretty often. Email, Twitter. And if those of you who are really interested, I have my my public Instagram account is, Sallia Snap. All right. And I think we had one more question. Talking about the performance art. Okay, so okay, so this will be the last question I respond to. Okay, so my presentation, do I have a Google Scholar profile? I do not, and we could talk about that. I can talk about that because I don't feel like I'm a scholar, but maybe I can make one. So when I was asked to do this presentation at AWE, it was for a different context. It was for something called Lightning Round, and that's where everyone talks for 5 minutes about a project that they do. And this is AWE, so this is a conference for AR developers. I really, really, really just wanted to talk about the Flirt Form, but that was something that was really kind of off topic and not really related to XR. So it was something I was a little bit nervous about. So I treated it like a performance art as a way to get over that fear that I might get blackballed and kicked out of AWE forever. So and I realized when I am doing a presentation about something that isn't exactly solicited, the execution is what actually matters. So the more, so the funnier and the more entertaining I made the presentation, the more accepting I feel like the presenters and the organizers, the more they're going to accept it. It is executed really well. So I presented it as a very, very formal presentation. And was saying a lot of like ridiculous things, and it also came right after a lot of very professional presentations. And it was okay, great, that's all great. Hey, I'm someone who works in tech, and I'm not going to talk about that. So that was a little bit of the background of that presentation. All right. So with that, I think we're approaching 10 o'clock, or sorry, 10 o'clock my time in LA. So thank you so much, Wendy. Okay. No, granted, it is a little, sorry.
No, just wanted to say thank you so much, Sallia, for sharing
course.
all this with us. I thought it was fascinating, and yeah, we'd love to get to know more about your other work in AR. So please, stay in touch with us here at XR Women. Come back and get involved in the discussions on Slack. And again, thank you very, very much, everybody.
course.
Let's give Sallia
Thank you so much, Sallia.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Excellent job. So interesting. Thank you so
Yay.
much. You rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. Well, if folks want to hang around for a little while, you're welcome to stay and engage informally. But I believe now the formal portion of our program has ended. I do hope that you'll all come back tonight for the Ringling College of Art and Design Student Showcase that's at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're looking forward to hearing from Sue Ko, Elena Smith, Vida Villanueva, and Yuxan Linda He, who will be talking about some work they did for SIDGRAPH. So please join us and give them some supportive feedback and encouragement. It's really, really matters to give this kind of, have this kind of engagement with students, with the next generation. So please do that. And again, thank you. Sarah, you can wear bells, please. Yes.